Did you know Michigan has more coastline than California? Or that there's a massive underground salt city beneath Detroit streets? How about the fact that the state is home to glowing rocks that look like molten lava under UV light? The Great Lakes region has way more than just Motor City and college football rivalries. So buckle up, because we're counting down 50 of the most insane, mind-blowing facts about Michigan we bet most folks never knew. Fact 50. Detroit's underground salt metropolis. Let's start beneath your feet. Deep under Detroit's bustling streets lies something most people will never see. An entire underground city made entirely of salt. We're talking about a massive maze of tunnels stretching over 100 miles through ancient rock, sitting 1,400 feet below the Motor City. This is basically a subterranean metropolis carved from a vanished prehistoric ocean. Operating since the 1900s, massive trucks mine over 1 million tons of salt every single year that ends up melting ice on the roads above. Next time you're driving through Detroit, remember, there's an entire hidden world beneath your wheels. Fact 49. The rocks that glow like lava. Here's something straight out of a sci-fi movie. On Michigan's Lake Superior beaches, there are ordinary-looking gray rocks that, when you shine a UV light on them, explode into blazing neon orange. These are called Yooperlites, and nobody even knew they existed until 2017 when a local rock hunter named Eric Rintamaki accidentally stumbled upon them while walking the beach at night with a UV flashlight. Suddenly, the entire shoreline lit up like an alien landscape. The rocks contain fluorescent sodalite, a mineral that glows intensely under ultraviolet light. By day, they're completely invisible. Now, every night along Lake Superior's shores, you'll find people wandering the beaches with UV flashlights, hunting for these cosmic stones. Fact 48. Ancient coral beaches from a tropical sea. Michigan's state stone isn't a gemstone or a crystal. It's fossilized coral from a tropical prehistoric ocean. They're called Petoskey stones, and when you find one and get it wet, it reveals these perfect honeycomb patterns, like nature-carved miniature mosaics into the rock. Polish one up, and it shines like marble, transforming ancient coral into something that looks like a precious gem. It's Michigan's tropical past, turned to rock and waiting to be discovered. Fact 47. An island in a lake on an island in a lake. Okay, this one will twist your brain. Ready? Inside Lake Superior, there's an island called Isle Royale. On that island, there's a lake called Siskiwit Lake. Inside that lake, there's another island called Moose Boulder, which makes it an island in a lake, on an island, in a lake, on an island. And if that's not enough, on Moose Boulder, there are seasonal ponds that form in the spring, which technically means there are moments when you have pools of water on an island in a lake, on an island in a lake on an island. It's so geographically mind-bending, showing one of the most recursive landscapes on the planet. Fact 46. Alien life beneath Lake Huron. Deep beneath Lake Huron's waves, there are places that look like portals to another world. Glowing blue sinkholes filled with toxic brine where almost nothing can survive. Almost. These ancient sinkholes are filled with brilliant purple and white mats of bacteria that thrive in conditions most life would find lethal. Feeding on sulfur in complete darkness and harshest of water, scientists call these bacteria living time capsules. To study them, divers have to descend into freezing low-oxygen tunnels. It's the closest thing we've found to what alien life might look like. Fact 45. The 3,700-pound boulder of pure copper. Before Detroit became the Motor City, Michigan was known for something else entirely: metal. Pure, raw, massive chunks of it just sitting in the ground. In the 1840s, miners in Michigan's Upper Peninsula discovered something that seemed impossible. A single boulder of almost pure copper weighing 3,708 pounds. They called it the Ontonagon boulder, and for centuries before miners found it, indigenous tribes considered it sacred. When word got out, it caused a literal copper rush, shipping it all the way to Washington, D.C. Today, it's still on display at the Smithsonian, gleaming under museum lights, a testament to Michigan's ancient geological wealth. Fact 44. America's first industrial miners. Long before anyone called it the Great Lakes, this land was already fueling one of North America's first economies. Indigenous miners carved out over 5,000 pit mines across Isle Royale and the Keweenaw Peninsula. The copper they produced was forged into tools, weapons, and jewelry that traveled across an enormous trade network, reaching as far as the Atlantic coast. This was one of the world's oldest and most sophisticated engineering projects, and it happened right here in Michigan, 7,000 years ago. Fact 43. The rift that almost split North America. An enormous volcanic fracture called the Mid-Continent Rift tore across the state, spewing one of the largest lava floods in Earth's history. We're talking about enough to bury the entire state of Michigan under 30 feet of lava. This wasn't just a volcano. The rift left behind a massive scar loaded with copper, iron, and other valuable minerals. The rocks you see today, the cliffs, the ore deposits, are all remnants of the day North America almost broke apart. Fact 42. Michigan's hidden bullseye beneath your feet. Look at Michigan on a geological map, and you'll see something bizarre, a perfect circular bullseye centered right beneath the lower peninsula. This is the Michigan Basin. Each layer represents a different era of Earth's history: fossil reefs, salt beds, gypsum, oil, and natural gas. It's a treasure vault of prehistoric life and energy, quietly fueling the state's economy. Fact 41. The rainbow cliffs that bleed color. Along Lake Superior's edge, nature painted a masterpiece. The pictured rocks rise 50 to 200 feet above the water, stretching for 15 miles in a kaleidoscope of red, blue, green, orange, and gold. And here's the thing, those colors aren't paint. They're metallic minerals bleeding through the sandstone. It's nature's slowest and largest work of art, still evolving, still bleeding color into the stone. A reminder that even rocks can be alive with beauty. Fact 40. The Sahara of the Great Lakes. Forget the Sahara. Michigan built its own desert, and it's the largest freshwater dune system on Earth. Along Lake Michigan's coast, the Sleeping Bear Dunes are the most famous, towering above the turquoise water like something out of a fantasy landscape. Climb one, and it feels like hiking a mountain made of sugar, except at the bottom, there are waves and beaches instead of desert heat. And in the winter, those same dunes turn into massive sledding hills. Fact 39. The beach that sings. At Bete Bay on Lake Superior, the sand doesn't just crunch, it squeaks, hums, and even produces natural musical notes powered by your footsteps. No gimmicks, just physics. Scientists say the whispering sound is just friction and vibration. It's not just Bete either. Several Michigan beaches have this phenomenon, but few are as loud or as musical. Fact 38. Magnetic black beaches. Some Great Lakes shores are lined with streaks of black sand that leap toward magnets like a science experiment. The culprit? Magnetite, iron-rich mineral grains mixed with flecks of garnet and sometimes even gold. It's like the beach is a natural ore refinery, sorting metals by weight and density. And all you need is a magnet and a bucket to start your own mini-mining operation. Fact 37. The lake that disappears every year. In northern Michigan, there's a lake that pulls a magic trick. It vanishes every single year. Mystery Valley looks like a massive canyon, 1.5 miles long and 150 feet deep. In the spring, melting snow creates a temporary lake. As summer arrives, the water drains through underground cracks and sinkholes, and the lake just disappears, becoming a dry forest floor. You can hike across it, camp on it, and never guess you're walking on a lake bed. Fact 36. The Underwater Highway. Beneath Lake Huron lies an ancient highway that's been submerged for thousands of years. During the Ice Age, when water levels were much lower, a rocky ridge connected Michigan to Ontario. It's the oldest preserved hunting site in the Great Lakes, now sitting 100 feet underwater. Fact 35. Stone Age hunting architecture underwater. Let's go deeper into that underwater hunting site, because it's even more impressive than it sounds. 120 feet beneath Lake Huron lies what archaeologists call the most complex prehistoric hunting structure underwater. We're talking about dozens of precisely placed stones and traps. Engineers built traps that worked for generations, using nothing but stone and knowledge. Picture an underwater Stonehenge, not for worship, but for survival. And those stones are still perfectly preserved in the cold, dark water. Fact 34. Lake Michigan's sunken Stonehenge. In 2007, scientists were scanning the bottom of Lake Michigan looking for shipwrecks when they found something way stranger. A line of large stones arranged in a perfect arc. And here's where it gets wild. One of the stones appears to have a carving of the extinct Mastodon on it. If that carving is real, it means humans once stood on dry land, now buried beneath Lake Michigan. The discovery set off headlines about a Lake Michigan Stonehenge, but its true origin is still unsolved. It's one of North America's most intriguing underwater mysteries. Fact 33. When elephants roamed Michigan. Michigan has a secret buried in its soil. Over 300 Ice Age elephants have been unearthed across the state, more than almost anywhere else on Earth. Farmers have hit tusks while digging ponds. Construction crews have stopped mid-project to excavate ancient bones. In 1992, near Ann Arbor, scientists found a trackway of 30 Mastodon footprints, the longest fossil trail of its kind in the world. These discoveries prove Michigan wasn't always cornfields and suburbs. It was once a frozen wilderness full of shaggy elephants, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths. Fact 32. The Mastodon that had a bad day. Here's the thing about those Mastodon footprints. They tell an amazing story of a Michigan that no longer exists. The 30-print trackway near Ann Arbor shows not just where the animal walked, but how it walked. You can see its gait and estimate its weight. The precision of these prints lets paleontologists essentially read the diary of an extinct giant. Fact 31. The hidden meteor crater under cornfields. Most people in southern Michigan drive over it every day without knowing. Buried beneath Cass County farmland is a 5-mile-wide meteor crater that slammed into an ancient ocean floor. The Calvin crater left behind shocked quartz, now completely invisible on the surface. You'd never know it's there just by looking. But seismic scans reveal the crater's deep underground, a reminder that the sky once literally fell on Michigan. Fact 30. The Great Lakes' deadliest storm. In November 1913, the Great Lakes became a freshwater ocean and unleashed the most violent storm in their recorded history. For 3 straight days, winds screamed past 90 miles per hour. Waves rose 35 feet high, taller than a 3-story building. 12 ships disappeared beneath the surface, taking entire crews. Sailors who survived called it the White Hurricane. It was the most fatal maritime disaster in Great Lakes history, and it happened in fresh water, not the ocean. The storm rewrote maritime safety laws and proves the Great Lakes aren't safer than oceans. They're just colder, angrier, and less forgiving. Fact 29. 32 feet of snow in one winter. During the winter of 1978 to 79, Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula literally disappeared under snow. We're talking about 32 feet in a single season. Residents of the town of Delaware, near Mohawk, built a giant snow depth marker just to prove it happened. Cars vanished completely. Roofs collapsed. People had to dig tunnels just to get from their house to the road. In the Upper Peninsula, snow isn't just weather, it's a way of life, a test of endurance. And if you can survive an Upper Peninsula winter, you can survive anything. Fact 28. The 163-degree temperature swing only in Michigan can you experience Death Valley heat and Arctic tundra cold in the same state. In 1934, the town of Vanderbilt recorded a bone-chilling minus 51 degrees Fahrenheit. So cold that trees exploded from the inside as their sap froze and expanded. Steel railroad tracks cracked like gunfire. Fast forward 2 years, and the town of Mio hit 112 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. That's a 163-degree temperature range, one of the widest swings in North America. If you want to experience every climate on Earth without leaving one state, Michigan's your place. Fact 27. More coastline than California. Here's something that surprises almost everyone. Michigan has more coastline than California, Florida, or even Hawaii. Surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, Michigan boasts 3,288 miles of freshwater shoreline. Add in every island, inlet, and bay, and you get the longest freshwater coastline on the entire planet. Here, lake life isn't a hobby or a vacation. It's a way of life, a point of pride, and a geographic fact. You don't need an ocean with tides, sharks, and salt to live on the coast. Just endless beaches, lighthouses, and sunsets over water. Fact 26. Turnip rock, nature's vegetable sculpture. On the eastern edge of Michigan's thumb, rising from Lake Huron's turquoise water, stands one of the state's most bizarre natural sculptures, Turnip rock. It's a limestone sea stack that looks exactly like a giant turnip or a mushroom, depending on your imagination. Here's the catch. You can't drive there. The only way to see Turnip rock up close is by kayak, paddling across open water from Port Austin. It's remote, exclusive, and absolutely surreal. A fantasy world landform that looks like it belongs in a Studio Ghibli film, not the Midwest. Fact 25. The humongous fungus. Deep beneath a Michigan forest near Crystal Falls lives a creature you'll never see. But it's one of the largest organisms on Earth. It's a single fungus. One individual organism stretching across 91 acres underground, weighing an estimated 440 tons, made entirely of mushroom. Before scientists discovered an even larger fungus in Oregon, this was Earth's largest known organism. And it's still here, silently spreading beneath your feet, running the forest from underground. Fact 24. The town buried by sand. In the mid-1800s, a thriving lumber town called Singapore sat on Lake Michigan's shore. It had homes, hotels, businesses, and a bustling port. Then, almost overnight, it vanished, swallowed whole by sand. When loggers stripped away the surrounding forests, they removed the natural barrier holding back the massive coastal dunes. By the 1870s, Singapore was gone, completely entombed beneath the sand. Today, there's nothing left visible, just a beach that looks perfectly ordinary. But what lies underneath is a chilling reminder that nature always wins. Fact 23. 6,000 shipwrecks beneath the waves. The Great Lakes are beautiful. They're also perilous. From shore, the Great Lakes might look calm and peaceful, but beneath the waves holds one of the largest maritime graveyards. Earning the nickname Shipwreck Alley, it holds the remains of over 6,000 shipwrecks, from the 1600s French traders to massive 1900s freighters. Here's what makes these wrecks so haunting. The cold freshwater preserves everything. Boots, dinner plates, wood, and fabric have stayed intact for over a century, frozen in time by the 40-degree water. Divers describe it as time travel, an underwater museum where you can swim through a perfectly preserved 19th century ship. Fact 22. Lake Superior never gives up. Her lost Gordon Lightfoot's haunting ballad about Lake Superior isn't just poetry, it's science. Because Lake Superior's water also stays around 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, remains that sink into its depths don't decompose the way they would in warmer water. The extreme cold halts bacterial growth and prevents gases from forming, which means they never float back to the surface. Divers occasionally encounter perfectly preserved shipwreck victims, proving Lake Superior doesn't just take lives, it keeps them. Fact 21. Ice volcanoes that erupt in freezing temps. Michigan's winter coastline does something that seems physically impossible. Volcanoes that erupt in freezing temperatures. When powerful Lake Michigan waves crash beneath a frozen shoreline, they force bursts of water and slush through cracks in the ice, creating cone-shaped formations that spray water and ice chunks into the air, just like a real volcano. These ice volcanoes can grow over 10 feet tall and erupt repeatedly throughout the day. Then, just as suddenly, they vanish when the weather shifts. Fact 20. The mystery of Saginaw Bay's shape. Look at Michigan from space, and Saginaw Bay looks like someone took a massive ice cream scoop to the coastline. Scientists say glaciers carved it during the last ice age. Others speculate that it's a space rock, but nothing definitive has been proven. Saginaw Bay remains one of Michigan's most perfectly shaped natural features and one of its most hotly debated mysteries. Fact 19. the supervolcano that built the Keweenaw. Beneath Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula lies the scar of one of Earth's most violent events, a supervolcano that nearly tore North America apart. The mid-continent rift erupted with such force that lava poured out, stacking molten rock 10,000 feet high. The next time you drive through the Keweenaw, remember, you're crossing the cooled remains of a supervolcano that, if the rift had succeeded, there might be an ocean running through the middle of the United States right now. Fact 18. Michigan's underground ocean of oil. Prehistoric Michigan sat beneath a warm subtropical ocean that transformed dead reef organisms into something valuable: oil. Michigan has quietly produced over 1.3 billion barrels of oil from these ancient reef structures. Today, Michigan doesn't just have fossil fuels. It is a fossil, a compressed, liquefied ocean trapped beneath the surface, slowly being extracted one barrel at a time. Fact 17. Kitch-iti-kipi, the crystal-clear spring. Hidden in Michigan's Northwoods is a spring so clear it doesn't look real. Kitch-iti-kipi, the big cold water, pumps out 10,000 gallons of crystal-clear water every minute from a 45-foot deep pool. Trout hover in the water. The temperature never changes, a constant 45 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, which means it never freezes. It's the largest freshwater spring in Michigan and one of the most surreal natural sights in the entire state. Fact 16. Gravity Hill, where cars roll uphill. In northern Michigan, near Bald Mountain Recreation Area, there's a stretch of road where the laws of physics seem to break. Put your car in neutral at the bottom of the hill, and it rolls backward or uphill. Pour water on the pavement, and it flows the wrong way. Cyclists have to pedal downhill to keep from rolling backward. Locals call it Gravity Hill, and for decades people have speculated about magnetic anomalies, supernatural forces, or alien technology. The truth? It's an optical illusion. The surrounding landscape, horizon line, and tree angles trick your brain into thinking you're going downhill when you're actually going uphill, and vice versa. Fact 15. The prophet who called down an earthquake. In 1811, something impossible happened. Church bells in Detroit began ringing, not from wind, not from human hands, but from an earthquake. The quake's epicenter was in Missouri, hundreds of miles away, but it was so powerful that buildings in Detroit swayed. Here's where it gets spooky. A religious leader of the time warned a great sign would shake the earth as part of his prophecy. When the quake actually happened, people believed he had called it down himself. The New Madrid earthquake was one of the most powerful in American history, and while that religious leader didn't cause it, the timing was so perfect that his legend grew even more powerful. Fact 14. The worst trade in history that became the best. In the 1830s, Michigan and Ohio went to war. Sort of. They called it the Toledo War, and it was over who got to keep the city of Toledo. After months of threats, and one guy getting stabbed with a penknife, Congress stepped in with a compromise. Ohio could keep Toledo. Michigan would get the Upper Peninsula as a consolation prize. Michigan was furious. The Upper Peninsula was considered worthless, a frozen, swampy wilderness full of mosquitoes and nothing else. The state felt cheated. Then, miners discovered something. It was sitting on billions of dollars worth of copper, iron ore, and timber. That worthless wilderness began fueling Michigan's economy for over a century. Fact 13. Michigan's secret third peninsula. Everyone knows Michigan has two peninsulas, but there's a third one hiding in plain sight. The Garden Peninsula juts into Lake Michigan like a quiet afterthought. It's home to towering Dolomite cliffs, turquoise water that looks Caribbean, and the ghost town of Fayette, an abandoned iron smelting village from the 1890s. The water below glows with colors you'd expect in the tropics, not the Upper Peninsula. Even stranger southern tree species like the Kentucky coffee tree grow here, hundreds of miles north of their normal range thanks to a bizarre microclimate that feels almost Mediterranean. It's Michigan's forgotten peninsula, the one tourists skip, but locals treasure. Fact 12. Walking on ancient tropical reefs. Every step you take on Mackinac Island is a walk on fossilized tropical coral. Over eons of time, those reefs died, compressed, and turned into limestone, the same rock that forms Arch Rock and the island's dramatic cliffs. So, when you're strolling around Mackinac, eating fudge and taking photos, you're literally standing on an ancient ocean floor. Every building, every road, every fudge shop is built on fossilized coral from an ancient tropical sea that has long vanished. Tourists see a quaint island. Geologists see a tropical ghost frozen in stone. Fact 11. A desert of grass in the state of water. Michigan is famous for its water. So how does it have a desert made of grass? The Shiawassee National Wildlife Refuge in southern Michigan's prairie are massive wet grasslands that flood seasonally and hide you in 8-foot-tall prairie grasses. These prairies are some of the rarest ecosystems in the Midwest, hosting over 30 endangered plant species, including the eastern prairie-fringed orchid, one of America's most threatened flowers. Its landscape proves that Michigan isn't just the state of lakes. It's also a state of grasses, wetlands, and ecosystems so rare that most people don't even know they exist. Fact 10. Explosions that come from the ground. If you've ever been jolted awake on a freezing winter night by what sounds like a massive explosion, but there's no fire, no smoke, nothing, you might have just heard a frost quake. When temperatures plunge below zero and moisture in the ground freezes instantly, the earth itself cracks open with the force of a gunshot. These cryosisms happen so fast and so violently, it's not an earthquake. It's not a gas explosion. It's just the ground snapping under pressure. Michigan winters are so brutal that even the earth screams in pain. Fact 9. Michigan's Blue Lagoon. Deep in Michigan's Northwoods, hidden among pine forests, the water glows an impossible shade of turquoise blue so vivid it looks photoshopped. Near Alpena, these deep limestone craters filter groundwater, giving it an almost electric color that shifts with the light. In winter, they freeze into glowing turquoise ice disks. In summer, they look like tropical lagoons, only surrounded by pine trees instead of palm trees. The effect is so surreal that visitors think they've stumbled onto a hidden beach resort. And unlike ocean lagoons, these stay crystal clear year-round, fed by underground springs that never stop flowing. Fact 8. Ghost towns swallowed by the forest. Michigan's Upper Peninsula is haunted, not by ghosts, but by entire towns that vanished when the money dried up. Fayette was a booming iron smelting town in the 1880s. Today, stone furnaces still stand. Central Mine had over 1,200 people mining copper in the 1850s. Mandan once had its own school and a doctor. When the mine closed in the early 1900s, the population evaporated overnight. These are one-industry towns that couldn't survive when the resources ran out. They're monuments to what happens when boom turns to bust. Fact 7. When volcanoes painted Michigan's sky. Michigan has no volcanoes, but it's been painted by several. When Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington in 1980, ash traveled 1,900 miles east and fell on Michigan cars within days. A century earlier, the 1883 Krakatoa explosion in Indonesia, literally on the other side of the planet, painted Michigan sunsets blood red for months. Even Mount Pinatubo's 1991 eruption in the Philippines cooled Michigan's summer temperatures by several degrees. It's proof that the atmosphere doesn't care about borders or distance. When a volcano erupts anywhere on Earth, Michigan feels it. Fact 6. The firestorms that burned Michigan alive. Everyone remembers the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Almost nobody remembers that Michigan burned the same day, and far worse. On October 8, 1871, massive firestorms ripped through Holland, Manistee, and Port Huron, incinerating 2.5 million acres in a single weekend. The flames were fueled by months of drought and mountains of logging debris left behind by timber companies. Entire towns vanished overnight. Hundreds of people lost their lives, possibly thousands more who were never counted. It was the most fatal wildfire event in Michigan's history. The story was overshadowed because Chicago's fire was louder, more famous, and better documented. Fact 5. Freshwater tides that are lethal. The Great Lakes may be freshwater, but they behave like an ocean, having their own lethal tides. They're called seiches, massive sloshing waves caused by winds, air pressure changes, and even the moon's gravity. In 1954, a sudden 10-foot wave slammed into Chicago's shoreline with zero warning, sweeping 8 people into Lake Michigan. Lake Erie regularly experiences these waves that drop water levels 5 feet on one side while raising them 5 feet on the other. Even Lake Superior has measurable lunar tides. The Great Lakes might not have salt, but never mistake them for safe. They're inland seas with ocean-sized attitudes. Fact 4. The living laboratory of Isle Royale. Far out in Lake Superior, 50 miles from the nearest mainland, lies Isle Royale, a national park so remote it's closed half the year, accessible only by boat or seaplane. This isn't a park for casual tourists. It's a wilderness ruled by wolves and moose, locked in one of the longest-running predator-prey studies in history. Since 1948, scientists have tracked every birth, death, hunt, and migration on the island, watching nature without human interference. There are no permanent human residents, just forest, rock, and 2 species in an eternal dance of survival. It's what North America looked like before humans arrived, a place where nature still writes its own rules and we're just watching, taking notes, trying to understand. Fact 3. The underwater graveyard you can kayak over. Off the coast of Alpena lies one of the most haunting places in the Great Lakes, Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, home to over 100 shipwrecks concentrated in such shallow water that you can kayak directly above them. And here's what makes it truly eerie. The cold freshwater has preserved these ships almost perfectly. Some wrecks sit in just 10 feet of water. On calm, clear days, you can see straight down to the deck of a 150-year-old schooner without even getting wet. Glass-bottom boat tours take visitors directly over the wrecks. It's Shipwreck Alley at its most accessible, a maritime graveyard where the buried are just a few feet below the surface. Fact 2. The moving dunes that never stop. While Sleeping Bear Dunes are the largest, Silver Lake sand dunes tell a different story. They won't stay put. Over 2,000 acres of sand here are constantly moving, shifting, and reshaping under persistent westerly winds. Dead treetops occasionally poke through the sand like skeletal markers, remnants of forests that were swallowed decades ago. Property owners have literally watched dunes creep toward their homes over their lifetimes. Imagine watching a 100-foot sand mountain slowly march toward your property. There's nothing you can do but watch nature's bulldozer advance, powered entirely by wind. It's geology in fast motion, proof that nothing built by humans lasts forever. Fact 1. Water Winter Wonderland. Michigan's old license plate slogan wasn't just marketing, it was geological truth. Water Winter Wonderland perfectly captures what makes this state unlike anywhere else on Earth. Michigan contains over 11,000 inland lakes plus 36,000 miles of rivers and streams. Winter transforms this water empire into a frozen playground unlike anything else in America. Some areas receive so much lake-effect snow annually that they essentially experience a 6-month winter. The Upper Peninsula becomes a different planet, one where survival requires creativity and a sense of humor about weather that would break most people.